Well, you all are hard to follow. Thank you. It's good to be with you all. Thanks for letting me say a pun this morning. At Numen Lumen, a Thursday inspiration, it's good to all be together. And we do very much thank Smooth Progressions for gracing us with your beautiful music this morning, and look forward to another piece coming up a little bit later. This morning, we also look forward to what Jeff Pugh has to share with us this morning. He is the Maude Sharpe Powell Professor of Religious Studies and has been here at Elon for a number of years and has beautiful wisdom and wonderful things to share with us all. You can read more about Jeff in your handout. It's good to have him with us, and I look forward to hearing you, Jeff. So please join me in welcoming Jeff this morning. The title of his talk is Leaving God, as he speaks about our Thursday morning theme this year, reconciling lives, personal stories, and the search for multi-faith understanding. Leaving God with Jeff Pugh.
I'm just going to go ahead and put this out there. It was 28 years. 28 years. I know he's just trying to be nice. He doesn't want to let that old man, talk about how long he's been here. I became a born-again Christian on March the 10th, 1972. And from the moment I became a believer, I have been leaving God. Yes, I was a teenage fundamentalist. Sounds a little bit like a horror movie, doesn't it? But that is part of my story, and that moment started me on a journey that has led me to this point this morning. When I walked out of my dorm room, we called them that back in the day, that March morning, I proceeded to grab my Josh McDowell, my C.S. Lewis, and anything else available, and I built for myself an impenetrable fortress of logic and rationality for why I was right and everybody else was wrong. The only problem with impenetrable fortresses, however, is that no light can get through. You need cracks for the light to appear. Or so I've heard, and it did not take long for the cracks to start. And every time something cracked, the God I believed in grew more and more distant. At first, the cracks came in the form, as they often do, of life slapping me upside of the head. When you drop out of college, because Jesus is coming back any minute. You can end up in places that call simply everything into question. So from the grimy room of a Toronto ghetto house to a jail cell, from dumpster diving to sharing a room with 10 other lost souls, it soon became obvious to me that the God of everything happens for a reason was going to have to go. The God of the omnis, the omniscient, the omnipotent. And it was a crack of sorts. As the journey continued, these cracks came in the form of others who stood before me with their claims of their own about the ways of God in the world. Their challenges made me realize that if you have the heart for it, life itself is one unending conversionary moment. The faces they wore were varied. An atheist who cared nothing for my beliefs, but loved me more than those who counted themselves Christian. A Vietnam veteran who became my roommate and best friend in seminary, and for whom I became on one long dark night his confessor for the murders that he had committed. The Bolivian man in La Paz who unlocked a desk drawer and pulled out a roll of toilet paper and told me to be careful how I used it because it represented the average daily wage for a Bolivian. The people of Guguletu Township in South Africa who taught me a lesson so profound in singing the new South African national anthem back in the early 1990s in the midst of appalling squalor and hopelessness. This hope radiated from them. It still shakes me to the core when I think about it. My Baha'i brother, who teaches me that faith is not the possession of just one person or one people or one group. Those are the cracks. The pile of children's shoes at the National Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., before which I absolutely broke down in tears. In short, it was the suffering of the world that pulled me to a truth that drew me further and further away from the God of small things, to the reality that if theology cannot speak to the burning of children in ovens, it should remain silent. These faces and countless other moments have been my companions on my journey leaving God. And the pilgrimage has often been hard because life on pilgrimage becomes disjointed, loose, fragmented, honest. This journey away from God revealed to me how often God becomes the thing that we use to justify ourselves in the world, to exalt our culture, our nation to exceptional status, and to buffer ourselves from the sufferings of others. We use God to legitimate the worst desires that we possess for power and dominance. And in the face of those who suffer, I had to leave the God that I had once embraced. How goes it with you today? What needs does the God that you worship serve for you this morning? Early on, the God I thought I knew served to wrap me in a cocoon of security, insulate me from the world. The space I carved out for God was a box, more a coffin, really. But with every face that challenged the fascist architecture of my faith, I suffered conversion. The God of national identity and pride, the God of the powerful, the God of exclusion, the God of being right all the time, became rightly seen as the idol it was. Now, these are the gods, my friends, that keep us imprisoned behind walls of exclusion, where if one is part of another tribe or another community or another persuasion, then they are cast out from us. And I have served time in the prisons of self-righteousness. It is a cell of darkness that needs to be cracked open continually. At least it does in my life. How about yours? Conversion is a suffering all of its own, but unless we are willing to take that journey, we will remain in the darkness. The things that remain among the fragments, however, are the shards of light. These spaces of a smile or a hand extended, these are the rumors of glory that we live with. Leaving God has left me with the realization that God is more often found in between the fragments where the light shines. The initial impulse that led me on that March morning to accept Christ, that God willingly embraces embodiment, that the world itself is the passion, that the world is the eros of God, has only grown stronger in my leaving God. Because in the end, what I have come to understand is that it is not the fragmentation of cracking that God most desires. It is the mending, the knitting together of those broken spaces that become of our lives, every single one of us. It is then the knitting together of the light in the midst of these fragments that we are called to. In my journey from teenage fundamentalism to whatever it is that forms me today, I have come to embrace the reality that the gods that we create will have to disappear. That our journey must be one of letting go of those fragments, those images that keep us separated from the thing itself. That journey must be a letting go in order to hold on to the light that remains. Now, for some time, I have been taken with the German mystic Meister Eckhart. I keep him by my bedside. I read him sometimes the last thing that I read before I slip off into unconsciousness, and I find there poignant things, and sometimes often very hilarious things. One of my favorites is that human beings love God the way a farmer loves his cow because it gives him milk and cheese. But I do find one quote of his has sunk into me, into the very core of my soul. And I'm going to quote him exactly, and so it's gender specific, I apologize. But he says, "Man's last and most noble parting is when he takes leave of God for God's own sake." Now, I was perplexed at this the first time I read it, but over time I came to see the wisdom of it. The gods that we construct with our doctrines and our institutions often must be forsaken, especially if they serve to cut us off from the suffering of others who stand before us with claims of their own. On our journey through the world, we must risk being beggars with empty hands. Because when we take leave of God, we become tailors of the Spirit, desiring with God's own passion to mend the shards of light laying in the midst of our brokenness into cloaks of grace for all others. Amen.
Thank you, Jeff, for your words of wisdom and life. Thank you all for being here. Before Smooth Progressions comes back up, I want to share a couple of things with you all. One is there's always coffee and bananas and donuts out in the lobby when we're finished, so please join us for refreshments. Second thing today is Better Together Day, which is a day to celebrate coming together, people of different religious and secular traditions. So some of us are intentionally wearing blue, others of us just happen to be a part of Better Together Day because we wore blue. This is a National International Day to bring religions together, reminding us we're better together than we are separately. This evening, if you have some free time, there is a lecture, the James P. Elder Lecture, which will be given by Bart Ehrman. You can read a bit more about that on the back of your handout. Tomorrow is Holi, the Festival of Color, a Hindu Indian festival, where if you go outside of Moseley tomorrow at 4 o'clock, you can throw color on one another and become very colorful. And Monday marks the beginning of Passover, so Hillel, the Jewish community here on campus, has invited us all to join them for a Passover Seder. Information about tickets and the like are also on the back of your handout. Jeff, once again, thank you. Once again, gentlemen, thank you for being with us. Look forward to your last piece here.